So I thought it was very appropriate that we actually had this wonderful rain the moment that we started to talk about risk. You won't agree with that? The risk, yes. So the greatest risk mitigator of all, rain. So I would just like to acknowledge also that what I'm going to share about is not just me, it's a big team effort from Asset Research. Hendrik Smith sitting there, Jaap Knot has been visiting many farms, Liane, Mary sitting there at the back, Mary wave, there's Mary. She's the person that's basically analyzed most of our numbers. She's magical. And Mary Maluleke, thank you very much, Mary, for the support. So what are we going to do today? So about a year ago, we sent out a questionnaire through the Grain South Africa bulk website, bulk servers, websites, what's called it, WhatsApp system, to ask farmers their perceptions around conservation agriculture, no-till, and then also conventional agriculture. I would like to first say thank you to all the farmers who have completed those surveys. Many of you are sitting here today. Thank you very much. And therefore this session is also therefore basically to provide feedback in terms of what those results were from the surveys that we've ran last year. Basically what we did is we say, let's look at what conventional farmers are thinking about conservation agriculture, and let's ask the conservation agriculture farmers what they think about it. Because what is in the mind drives your reality. Your perception drives your reality. If you think it, that's how it is. If you think it's greener on the other side of the fence, then it is greener on the other side of the fence, irrespective of what the data might say. Perceptions are so strong. So we basically ran this questionnaire and we asked the questions what people are thinking about it. I'm just going to share some of those highlights. Distributed by Grain South Africa, and then we collated it. Mary, thank you. So we got 75 responses, 34 from the conventional farmers, and then no-till conservation agriculture 41. And thank you very much to everybody who participated in. I know I hate filling in questionnaires. I'm sure you hate filling in questionnaires, and I'm sure you hated filling in this questionnaire as well. But just thank you for doing so and some of the results. So, in terms of the question, which ones are the most profitable? Conventional or conservational? Because in the end of the day, if you want to manage risk, it's about profit. Gerrit asked this morning, why are you here? Why are we here? To produce healthy food, profitable. If we don't produce healthy food, we're not looking after our people, not looking after our constituencies, the people who's buying it. If we don't produce it profitably, we're not looking after ourselves and our next generation. To produce food, healthy food, profitable. So, the conventional farmers, 50% says conventional beach conservation agriculture. With a large chunk in the middle, 35% that was sort of sitting on the fence. I thought that's interesting. The fence sitters, they're not sure which ones is actually the most profitable. But when you look at the conservation farmers, conservation agriculture farmers, 71% says that conservation agriculture is far more profitable than conventional agriculture. With the most 37% saying it's much more profitable than conventional agriculture. We're talking about profits. We're not talking about yields. We're not talking about anything like that. We're talking about money in the pocket, profit, that which will keep you on the farm. That's exciting. What are the factors that the farmers are thinking that affects their decision to basically move to conservation agriculture or not to move to conservation agriculture? The conventional guys, they're saying soil and climate make it impossible to change to conservation agriculture. My plaas, op my plaas, we cannot do conservation agriculture. The soil and the climate doesn't allow for it. All of them, 100% said that. But when you turn to the conservation agriculture farmers and you ask them, what are the biggest barriers? What are those barriers that limit transition and for them to advance? The answer is quite different. Awareness, knowledge, skills, research, data. I think that's why an event like today and the discussions that we had yesterday and the walk on the farm was so fantastic. I couldn't help but think about this slide. This is exactly the slide that was answered yesterday and in many other farmers' gatherings like this. It's where's the data, what is the research, what is the experience, can we learn from it? There are pioneer farmers, the Rimland Study Group and many other study groups who are pioneer farmers leading the way. So where it might have taken 10 years for a person to adapt and to groom, to get into the system, now you can do it in 3 or 4 years. Because it's all the bulk of knowledge that's available, that's there. And I think there, Chris, everybody, you said everybody must clap hands for everybody else before, but today I think we have to clap hands for Landbou Weekblad for actually spearheading this process as well. Thank you, Chris. And the team with Landbou Weekblad and all the other magazines and so on that is really taking the knowledge going forward. So, what would be the time frame when people will see the benefits on their farms? So within 1 or 2 years, they see erosions being mitigated, stopped and curtailed and changed around. They will see much more lower machinery cost, the maintenance cost, the replacement cost of the machinery to be reduced. Increased soil, water and climate resilience. That's big time on risk mitigation. From a 3 to 5 year period, the advance is then in knowledge, skills development, soil health, fertility, all the things in terms of the Haney test and so on, start to see those effects kicking in big time according to the farmers. And that's where the lower production cost also comes in, according to the survey, according to the farmers. With it, the biodiversity. Standing in that farm with Ryan yesterday, there in that one paddock with the climate grass, looking over the fence to the tired looking grass, looking to the other side to the vibrant grass. That's when you start to see this and it becomes exciting. So those are the perceptions. So let's contrast that with the observed data. The actual hardcore data. So what we did is, we went to various cooperatives, WFK, NWK, etc. And we asked them, can we get data from your farmers with production cost data for the past 5 years? They supplied us with 38 farmers, the production cost data of 38 farmers. I don't know who those farmers are, and I'm glad I don't know. So it's only about the numbers here. Some of the data might be from you here. I've got no idea who the 38 farmers are. And we analyzed those 38 farmers. It's divided between conventional, people in transition, and then no-till and conservation. Let's compare the perceptions with the realities. We compared how did it grow in the first 2 years, in other words, the 2018-19 season, 2019-20 season, with the latter 2 years. In other words, the 21-22 and 22-23 season. We compared the first 2 years with the last 2 years and see, did we see any change? Did they become more profitable or less profitable? In the Northwest Province, the first 2 years, conservation agriculture performed worse than conventional and the transition. But the last 2 years, 2 seasons, they compared much better, 59% better when you compare it with the no-till one, and then 1% when you look at the conventional to the transitional. incredible change. When you look at the Northwest Province, we see the same sort of trend. The first 2 years, when you compare it with no-till and to the conventional one, it's a slight 28% already better. But that improved substantially towards the latter 2 seasons, latter 2 years, 47%. And likewise, when you compare it with the people in transition. The one thing that it is different is where it's very happy to farm. So in the eastern areas, where it's very forgiving, where mistakes can be made, conventional is still outperforming conservation agriculture, but to a lesser degree, to a lesser extent. What are we learning here? On the arid side, the western side, where it's dry, conservation agriculture is already much better than conventional. What does that tell us about risk mitigation and resilience? Conservation agriculture is far outperforming the conventional ones because of risk mitigation, because it's more resilient. So, talk about risk management. It's dissolving on... Can you hear me actually? You can hear me. All right. I'm surprised because I can't hear myself. But that's perhaps a good thing. So let's just look at risk mitigation. Dynamic means it changes rapidly, regularly, and complex means there's a lot of variables, many variables in it. That's why it's dynamic and complex. It changes and there are many variables. Some of them are under your control, some of them are not under your control, but the biggest problem with risk is when you don't think about risk. If you're going to stress the whole time about the things that's out of your control, you're wasting your time. It's out of your control. Things that are under your control, you can manage those risks, manage those issues. So what are those issues? We developed this risk barometer, whereby we can look at all the various indicators. As we said, there are many indicators. Let's try to consolidate them into one indicator. Those things that are under your control would be things like your soil organic matter, water use efficiency, and soil cover. Why are they internal risks? Why is that under your control? Because that's directly dependent on the farming management technique that you're applying. Conservation farming, conventional tillage, whatever the case may be. Then the external risks. Farmers, for most part, are price takers. So the external risk would be the price that you have to pay for the fertilizer, for the fuel, etc. Those are external risks. They're beyond your control. And then the big thing for sustainability is profitability. Because we need profit to be able to sustain our farm going forward. As I said, why are we here? To produce healthy food, profitable. Healthy food for the people that needs to eat it, and profitable so that you can stay on the farm. How this risk barometer works, it's integrated, so the internal risk is 25%, the external risk is 25% of the weight, and then the profitability is 50% of the weight. What we did is, with the team that Hendrik is leading, the names that I've mentioned before, we looked at all the trial sites that Asset Research is managing at the moment at 4 different places, over 4 years, and every trial site has got about 27 plots. So it's more than 100 data points per year at 4 sites over 4 years. Different rotations, conventional rotations, no-till rotations, conservation agriculture rotations. Maize, 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 soya, 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 maize, soya, soya, cover crops, maize, cover crop, various different permutations in terms of the rotations. The results that I'm going to share with you is for one sort of set of assumptions, one sort of scenario, where we're looking at the costs to produce and to operate using trial data. We assume that the cattle that's going to be provided to graze the double cover crop would be the farmer will provide that cattle, so that you don't have to buy the cattle. and we're using the long-term farm yield. That's sort of the basic parameters that sits under this analysis. And risk and resilience are sort of opposites with one another. The higher the risk is, the lower the resilience. The more resilient the farm is, the lower the risk. So in other words, a very high index number is more resilient, lower risk. So that's what we're looking for. Are those production systems that will have a very high index score, high resilient, low risk. The ones with low index value is high risk and low resilience. And so this is the result. Looking over 4 years, more than 100 trials, 100 plots over 4 different sites. So it's consolidating everything into one sort of graph. There are many sub-graphs that one can dig into the details. But your conventional one has got an index score of 11.5. Compare that with your conservation agricultural rotations of 74.5. That is a 544% difference in risk. If that is not meaningful, I don't know what is meaningful. And that is looking at actual data on actual plots over 4 years, looking at various different rotations over time. We're very encouraged by this. When we developed this index, it was a way to actually analyze the amount of data that's been compiled over time. So we haven't invented the index first and then looked for data. The data was gathered first, and then we had to say, how are we going to analyze it? So, in conclusion, the final slide. The profitability, the perception is, conventional farmers are saying, 50% says that conventional is better than conservation agriculture. The reality is that in conservation agriculture is much more profitable, the more arid, more hardy conditions than in the eastern parts. So what is the factors that influences change or that hinders change? The conventional guy says, soil and climate, it cannot work on my farm. Conservation agriculture guy says, give us knowledge, empower us, help us, walk with us the way. And then in terms of the risk index, 11 on the one side, 74 on the other side. Very conclusive, we think. And so, thank you very much. And yeah, it was very much interrupted with the rain, the risk mitigation factor par excellence, rain. But thank you to all the participating farmers who have provided us with the results through the questionnaires that we have sent. Thank you very much, Chris and team.